Peace, this is Jerome with Quantum Light Consciousness. Today is the news update for September 2025. Alright, how you guys doing out there? Everybody, come to you with a lot of love and a lot of peace, a lot of oneness, and a lot of reverence for you for tuning in and watching this video today. I'd like to thank you for joining me here. And I just wanted to give like a quick run through of some of the things that happened recently in the collective the past few months here. I'm just going to review like the past month or so. So first, we're going to talk about Israel. We're going to talk about who Israel actually is. We're going to go into like why Israel is such a formidable force when they just seem to be like this like subpar country with a subpar military who's just been somehow a powerhouse for the past few decades since the end of since the 60s. Since like the 50s even. It's like, who is Israel? All right. So as I said in my last news update, at the end of World War II, when World War II started to end, it was the end game. You had a lot of ships meeting the Nazis in Antarctica. It's called the Last Stand. And when that happened, you had a ton of warships, and then you had Nazis who had already surpassed time and space through technology, and so they met the United States and the Allies warships with interdimensional flying spacecraft that could rip through anything immediately. So it just decimated all of these warships, and they won the war. And the Allies didn't tell anybody, because when that happened, who's going to tell the whole world that you lost the war to Nazis because they have some crazy technology? So it ended up being like a truce. It literally ended up being a truce because the Nazis were caught in a place, and the Allies were caught in a place. You can't fight Nazis with this crazy interdimensional technology, and the Nazis didn't have anything besides the technology because their entire empire had been destroyed. Yet, if they wanted to, they could destroy the entire planet. They can destroy everything. But they decided to work, they decided to not do that and not, maybe kill themselves in the process. So it was kind of like a reluctant truce the Allies took with the Nazis. So since then, the United States has had Nazis, people from Antarctica, infiltrate the government and run the government through the entire world. And what the Nazis have been liking doing is identifying themselves as Israel. Like they chose Israel as their point of presence in the world. So that's why Israel is so powerful. That's why the Palestine war hasn't ended, because it's just like they're like an entire breakaway civilization with all this interdimensional travel and space technology and high-powered weapons and spaceships. Literally the same type of spaceship you see in Star Wars, with those Empire dudes with the Nazi caps on, with the badges and everything. Their faces look like sunken and swollen in. It's exactly like that. That's what's exactly happening right now. That's the type of stuff they have. Their bases are in Antarctica, and the presence in the world they choose as Israel. So that's why Israel is so formidable. Why Israel is so like influential, and why it doesn't seem to make any sense why Trump would be so friendly with Israel and not stop the Palestine war. It's because Israel is Antarctica, a breakaway civilization. Okay? So if you understand that, a lot more about what I'm about to tell you will start to make a lot more sense. So the main thing that happened, and the reason why I'm making this video is uh, because of recently the Charlie Kirk murder that happened. Everybody's been talking about it. Everybody knows what happened. Everybody's seen it happen. It is a terrible thing to take place. To watch. It was a terrible thing that happened to this guy who was a very well-known person, a person who was loved by a lot of people. He was a very successful person. He had some very controversial standpoints on a lot of things like abortion and Palestine and other things that are very questionable. Yet he was a patriot. He was a person who supported his country. He was a person who loved his family, who loved people deep down, and he was a person that knew how to convey himself from his core. He was a person who knew how to genuinely convey and project what he truly believed, whether it was right or wrong. You know, I personally don't agree with his views that he had on Palestine and on Israel. So to break down what happened, last week this guy was gunned down, and he was at a university in Utah, and all of a sudden he shot. He shot. So, and it's like when he was campaigning and speaking, he was literally like connecting with people, answering questions, and from what I heard, right when somebody asked about trans rights, he got shot. So the official story is a leftist shot him, which was my first guess. Because leftists, they get very violent and they get very triggered, and they move in a way to where they aren't thinking rationally, and they take actions without thinking, and they speak without thinking, and they think they're doing the right thing, and it's not the right thing to move towards people, firebombing somebody's Tesla, or showing up and threatening somebody's life because of something that they don't agree with, or showing up with a gun and shooting somebody because of their views or because they don't like the president. Leftists, in my opinion, they have a lot of things that are going on that are subconsciously triggerable, that have been projected onto them by the mainstream media, and it can get ugly. It can get ugly when those things are used against them. Because the official story with Charlie Kirk, I personally firstly thought it was, it had to be a leftist that actually shot him. Yet, if you actually look at what actually happened, the days leading up to Charlie's murder, he was in talks with Israel, and Israel was surveilling him very closely, because in those few weeks he was talking about how he didn't agree with Israel, how Israel was may not be doing the right thing in the war, how Israel's intentions may be clouded based off of their actions, based off of the mass genocide in Palestine, and he was questioning a lot of things about how he's been treated by Israel, just for slightly questioning their motives. He was immediately called anti-Semitic, and he was literally being questioned very frequently based off his actions through text messages and everything. And it turns out during that time, Israel had reached out to him and asked him, or offered him money to stop criticizing Israel. And Charlie Kirk, the type of person he wasn't going to take money to stop or censor his beliefs, or censor what he actually thought. he didn't get to where he is based on doing that, so he didn't do it. So as soon as he continued to continue criticizing Israel, he got shot. And the official story is he got shot by leftists. You can believe it or not, but there's no video of a person walking up and shooting him. There's a video of a person may have, or who could have shot him, who was a leftist. That's what you like to call a patsy. You have this one person who you set up, say, all right, we'll give you $1 million if you shoot this person, and then you set him up, and then the whole time their every move is documented, and you see this kid walking down the street with a gun, and then you see this kid walking along a roof, and then jumping down the roof with a little pistol, and then it's like, well, where's the footage? Was he even close to Charlie Kirk? Because the shot that happened, Charlie was hit from 200 meters away. So, you kind of want to think about it there. So, my thoughts are, it's obvious Charlie Kirk wasn't shot by a leftist, but it's just like there's multiple things happening. Leftists feed into this. Right now they're feeding off violence. They're feeding off pain. They're feeding off fear. They're feeding off murder. They're feeding off blood. They're literally just like eating this guy's death energy, and they're celebrating it. And it's like, there's a video that just came up of a person walking up to Charlie's funeral memorial and just wrecking it, just walking through, just wrecking it, just tearing the flowers, just walking through it, just throwing the wreaths. It really doesn't make any sense, besides they're being controlled by their own irresponsible, irrational, misguided behavior. Just because there's been a lot of things happening in Palestine based off of Israel's rule, Israel's ill intentions, doesn't mean that you can celebrate when a leftist is literally fooled and framed into shooting a very influential person who eventually was about to turn against Israel. So it's like, leftists, you guys are screwing it up. You guys are screwing everything up, literally. Charlie Kirk was literally about to start speaking out against Israel, and now Israel silenced him, and now you guys are celebrating something that could have been very good. It could have been very good, but in the end, it wasn't even a leftist who shot Charlie. It was some professional sniper from 200, 300 meters away. So, it's just terrible. It's actually very sad. It was a very sad day. It was the day before 9/11. These things happen, and it's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence it happened the day before 9/11. It's not a coincidence It's not a coincidence they framed a leftist. It's not a coincidence there's a video of a kid who saw exactly what happened, and then a few people walk up on the kid and say, hey, stop talking, and he's like, get your hands off me, and the guy's like, stop talking, and it's just all this stuff. It's not a coincidence that Israel tried to pay Charlie Kirk to shut up, and he didn't, because Charlie Kirk isn't that type of person. He's the type of person who's going to do what he believes. Unfortunately, he believed in the CIA narrative for anti-Semitic stuff. That's literally just a prop to make Israel happy, because they're too powerful to upset. Sometimes you have to play ball with something that's way too powerful to dismantle overnight. You have to slowly chip away at it, and you can't just run up in it and destroy it, because it's like a 5,000-year-old death cult. It's how do you destroy something like that immediately? Just because we got our White Hat Alliance Galactic Federation president in office, you still have to work with the Dark Forces who've been running the planet for, I don't know, a couple thousand years. You have to work with them. It's not something that happens overnight. It's not something that immediately happens. It's like with the vaccines. You have RFK saying, yeah, we're gonna monitor and revamp and eventually stop doing vaccines. Yeah, Pfizer has not been stopped. Pfizer, there's been no arrest made at Pfizer. You know, there's been nothing that happened to anybody who had any play in the COVID lies, the COVID manufacturing, the vaccine manufacturing, the COVID deaths. None of that really. Like, they started it, yet nothing's happened yet. So it's kind of just like they're trying to play ball with these very, very powerful organizations. The pharmaceutical mafia, the military industrial complex mafia, Israel's entire military space program based out of Antarctica. You know, all of it. This is like all of it. That goes into other planets, and it goes into interdimensional timelines that tries to screw with the entire timeline of the entire Earth. So there's a lot of stuff going on here, guys. So just please pay attention when things happen. There's a lot of things that are happening on multiple layers behind the official story that's been offered to you. So just think, okay, and feel, and use your intuition, and study, and research, and remember facts of who organizations are, who people are, the type of people are. You know, a person like Charlie Kirk, he was completely wrong about Palestine, you know, yet he believed it. So when they shot him, it was for a good reason, because he's not the type of guy to go back on his opinion when he finds out Israel is being completely wrong about everything. They've been wrong about literally everything they've been doing. You know, you can't just, you know, kill babies and expect everybody to never question it. Charlie was finally ready to question it, and they shot him too. So, you know, it's just like, it's terrible. This stuff is terrible. Yet, think for yourself. All right, so another thing that recently happened, President Trump is now calling out NBC and ABC as, you know, fake news, as he always does. Yet he's calling for ABC and NBC's broadcasting licenses to be revoked. Okay, so this is huge, because a lot of why Trump was not elected in 2021 was because of the media. The media just completely lied, completely like rearrange facts, rearrange storylines, completely flip what actually happened, say the opposite of what actually happened, just, you know, or just completely not report on things because the official story doesn't match their imaginary storyline for their own timeline for what they want to happen. So, you know, those organizations should not be able to broadcast to well-deserving people who have to go to work every day and feed this gluttonous cannibalism cycle of this fake, fraudulent financial domination scheme of economy they have going here. Okay, so that's just one of those things to watch out to see how it develops, because fake news is fake news. You can't just continue flipping every single story that comes out and attacking every political figure that is opposed to your own political views. You know, you can't do that, because that's not what news is. It's just not what news is. It's just not. You know, so it's like the big thing with the ICE deportations. You know, they want to flip that and say, oh, Trump's racist. Trump's trying to get rid of all the Latinos. He's trying to get rid of all the people who came in from outside countries who aren't Caucasian. He's trying to get rid of all the people who he secretly hates because he's secretly racist. It's like, first off, he's married to an immigrant. Second off, you see him like praising and celebrating victories of minorities way more than anybody else ever had. There's a lot of stories about Donald Trump showing up and just helping people and then disappearing. You've seen him in the streets, like giving little old ladies money, stopping them from jumping off the bridge who happen to be black, because he's just a nice person. He's there like helping the community. You know, it's like this. All this bullshit stuff just has to stop. It's just like, it's a lot more than what Joe Biden did. Yet the news won't report that. They refuse to report that because their viewpoints and optics for reporting news is actually fake. It's actually artificial. They want an artificial timeline, which is why they continue to only focus on what would help them. You know they'll continue to attack and skew and distort and try to confuse every possible thing they can into something that it isn't. And you know, that's just, I don't know, that's just what they have unfortunately corrupted themselves to do. So another thing that happened, so since one of the political figures on the right who was a kid had got jumped by a lot of leftists just for just being in their neighborhood at the wrong time, Donald Trump brought in the National Guard to Washington, D.C., which is well deserved. If you know Washington, D.C., there's a lot of things that happen in Washington, D.C. that you don't want to be around for. There's a lot of robbings, there's a lot of muggings, there's a lot of vicious violence, there's a lot of murders, there's a lot of brutality, there's a lot of shootings, there's a lot of things that happen in Washington, D.C. And then you have news media saying, oh, Washington, D.C. isn't that bad. It's not that bad. They're skewing statistics. They're doing this to support their own political career for a political stunt. That's something that they would do. That's not the president's agenda, is to look good. His agenda is actually to serve, to actually help the country, help the world, free the world, and change the world into a positive place to exist. That's just who he is. So he brought in the National Guard to Washington, D.C., and he cleaned up Washington, D.C. in like a week. And Washington, D.C. is like a completely new place. It's like almost crime-free. He made like a ton of arrests, and he just took a whole bunch of guns and a whole bunch of people off the streets, a whole bunch of gang members off the streets, a whole lot of migrants off the streets who weren't supposed to be there anyway. But it's just like, if you look at the footage for people who live in Washington, D.C., they're saying, hey, wow, Trump actually helped us. He actually helped us a lot. And then there's other videos of people like on the main strip of Washington, D.C., just like with their camera phones, they're like, it's so quiet here. And then you see a person walk by, and the person's like, I know, right? It's super quiet. I've never seen it like this. So it's really just like, that's obviously what's happening. It's literally like countries being cleaned up. That's literally what's going on. So you have people who have been brainwashed, saying that, oh, this is crazy. He renamed the Department of Defense to the Department of War, and now he's going to war with Chicago. They're doing it next. It's just like all this stuff has just been skewed by the mainstream media. None of that stuff is even like rationally was even close to even happening. So the next city that was scheduled to be cleaned up was Chicago. And if you know Chicago, it's like a blue city to where you have a very fraudulent, very criminally active, very corrupt mayor. And that mayor literally said that he was going to fight the National Guard coming in and cleaning up crime for 1 week, to get guns off the streets, to stop war zone areas, to stop mugging, shootings, murderings, all of it. It's like, if you know Chicago, Chicago is like a really, really raw and dangerous place. It's like, the South Side of Chicago, that's like a term. It's like, you don't want to go there. You know that around the country. Just that vibration of that name of that area of the town. You don't want to go there. And you have the same thing of these people saying, oh, he's inflating the crime statistics. Chicago isn't that bad. Chicago's crime was down recently. The crime rate has been down. Yeah, it was down 2% from a record high, and it's still at a record high. It's just down 2% from the record high. It's just like they'll say anything. NBC, ABC will say anything to keep things from changing, because the criminal Democrats are profiting from the gang members in these cities off of the crime. So anytime you see anything like that, it's because of that. It's because this criminal mayor, whatever his name is, he's profiting off of all those statistics being that high, because when they're that high, he knows he's making money. He knows things are happening, and he knows there's lawlessness, and he's part of that lawlessness. So if that lawlessness gets reduced, his drug empire, his criminal orchestration and management starts to fall away, and he starts to actually be exposed for what he's doing. So the mayor and Trump were going back and forth until Trump finally said, all right, we're going to Memphis. So Memphis is like just as bad. There's shootings. Literally right before I made this video, I saw a shooting video of Memphis. Just, it's just like a gun battle, like broad day in the street. It's just like a sedan They put the sedan in neutral. It's a car, a sedan rolling down the street. They put the sedan in neutral. One guy gets out the driver's seat with a pistol, starts shooting. Guy from the passenger seat gets out with an AK, starts shooting. And they're shooting while the car's still rolling. It's like something you hear in like a rap song. Like literally, that's what they rap about, and that's literally what's happening. So it's like, it's wild. It's very wild to see. So just watch. Just watch. Watch on social media. Watch the before and after, based off of the crime statistics, based off of people's reactions, based off of how people feel, what people are saying. Watch that and tell me what happens. Tell me how those people feel. If you're watching, you're from Memphis. Tell me. I want you to tell me, how was it before? How is it after? So in all these things that happen, it's to alert the public that real judicial court has been going down behind the scenes, and things that have actually been happening, where it's military marshals coming in, like JAG. You have military tribunals, the whole nine, where it's like you have like 3 judges in a room, and these judges are literally like top-notch military people, colonels, generals, very high rank, who can decide whether you're innocent or you're guilty. It's no jury, it's just that, because if you make it that far, the military knows what's happened already. They know what you've done. If you're somebody who if you're somebody like Sean Diddy Combs, everybody knows that guy's guilty. Everybody knows he did all this crazy shit, and he was literally drugging and raping little kids and tranquilizing people and abducting them and trafficking little kids and doing all this stuff. But he gets off scot-free. Why? Because there was meddling, there was interference with who the prosecutor was. Who was the prosecutor? James Comey's daughter. If you know who James Comey is, how they allowed James Comey's daughter to be the prosecutor in the Diddy case, I have no idea. Yet that's what happened. So right after the Diddy verdict came back inconclusive, you see Trump dropping the entire Epstein thing. They dropped the Epstein thing because, number one, Epstein isn't even around anymore. He's literally like gone. He either faked his death, or somebody kidnapped him and he's off planet, or he's actually dead somewhere. Whatever happened to him, he's not around. The first term Trump was in office, he literally detonated his entire sick pedophile island with F-22s, rockets, and just exploded it. Since then, people were like, oh, was Trump there? But it was obvious he wasn't. What just came out recently was Trump was actually an informant against Epstein when Epstein was literally still doing that stuff. When Trump was still in business, and Epstein was literally trying to get into Trump's properties to steal people from his properties. So that's why Trump never liked Epstein, because Epstein was a creep. So Trump destroyed the island. After that, all this stuff comes back up again about Epstein recently. I don't know why. Just the internet is just obsessed with pedophiles. I don't know why. Like what? I don't get it. So I was just very concerned and angry about the Epstein thing not going away. It's just nonsense. It's like people want people to go down with that guy, and it's just not happening. Epstein would never have even been convicted and uncovered if Trump wasn't even in office. So it's just it's just ridiculous, all of it. Mass arrests are happening, and right after the Diddy verdict came back inconclusive, Pam Bondi literally fired James Comey's daughter. James Comey's daughter was fired, and she, no longer has her lofty position of tenure wherever she was at, letting pedophiles go free. That's never going to happen again. Don't know how she got there, but that's never going to happen again. And so, because of that, it's kind of like, they have to tiptoe between the powers here, because if you're dealing with the Epstein stuff, you're kind of dealing with Israel, and you're dealing with human traffickers who work for these places. You're dealing with a lot of powers that have a lot of influence still that, you know, have been trying to harm the president. So it's kind of like, you know, you can't go head on and say, we're going to do this, we're going to take everything out immediately, because it's like dealing with Hydra. If you ever seen the Captain America movie, where, you know, it's like, you know, they have this 1940s lab that they find underground, and they find the scientist in the computer in the lab, and the scientist starts talking to them through the computer. He's like, I used to be a scientist here. Now I'm in the computer because I uploaded myself here, and now I'm talking to you. And then they like smash the screen, and then like a million more screens pop up, and this guy is just like still talking to him. So it's kind of like that, you know. It's literally pretty much like that. You know, they have that stupid type of technology where they upload themselves in the computers, in the bodies, and they go through this, you know, loop timeline, and just continue to try to do the same thing over and over again. And they're dealing with an interdimensional technology force that's completely lost it. It's completely lost all sense of empathy for all human life, for anything, for any cosmic benefit or positivity or peace or love or anything. You know? So when you see Trump go into Epstein stuff and then want to drop it, it's because you're dealing with a lot of like high-powered interdimensional military stuff with people who are completely just psychopathic, who have no remorse for anything, who want to destroy every possible thing possible. They have a lot of power to continue to do that. It's like the earthquakes. You know, where are these random earthquakes coming from? Oh, that's just, you know, the 5,000-year-old death cult that refuses to die and just wants to keep feeding off deaths of human lives, innocent lives, especially kids. You know, this stuff is real. This stuff is happening. You guys need to wake up and actually, like, put the dots together, figure it out, realize this for yourself. So when you watch the news, you know what's happening. I don't have to sit here and tell you. You know what's happening. I love you. I'm here telling you, but I want you guys to also get it. I don't want to have to be the person who always has to explain the world to people. Like, this is like, why do I have to do it? You know, I'm just a normal guy. You know, I'm just trying to live my life. You know, but it's fun, and it's also why I do it, because I get some things out of it. It's beneficial for me. It's beneficial for people who watch it, and it's rewarding to show up and do my job as I'm supposed to do. As a light worker, as a creator being, as a light warrior, it's my pleasure, honor, and privilege to be here with you today. So that's it. Peace and love. I just want to let you guys know some of this stuff that's been going on and my take on things, and how there's always more things happening that is let on at the surface, and to always look into things with your own eyes. Use your own discernment. Feel from your heart. Use your intuition. Talk to your higher selves. And, you know, that's, you know, one of the critical things. You know, you can use your heart, use your intuition, yet if your higher self isn't with you and you're not, like, going back and forth, like, you know, based off of your past and present timeline and concepts of your notions in the world, it's a lot harder. So just bring your higher selves in, speak to them every day, and actually have them weigh in on situations when you don't know what's going on, when you need to know what's happening, and you say, hey, higher self, is this worth looking into? No, that's not worth looking into. Hey, higher self, is this worth looking into? Yes, you may want to look into that. Watch that video. After you watch the video, hey, higher self, did they mean this? Why are you talking about this? How does this happen? And then they'll tell you, because you have to meet them halfway. You have to actually do the work and be diligent and be conscious enough and aware enough to ask questions. When you ask your higher self questions, they will answer you, and they'll tell you things that most people don't know about. And it's like, it's enlightening. You literally become more of who you are, because you're literally more dialed into the higher dimensional wavelength, and you get to not fall into the cosmic unconsciousness, to where you're triggered by these things that happen. And when you're triggered, now you're celebrating somebody's death. You know, it's just like, you know, you don't want to be doing that. You don't want to be doing that. You want to be rooted, grounded in unconditional love, peace, unity, oneness, you know, higher intention, and the best and highest outcome for all. All right? So peace and love. I love you. Take care. I'll talk to you soon.